Welcome back to the news at 10. Now, there's more on the APC state congresses held today. As reported, while the congress held in some states, same does not apply to others. In Kano State, the congress was moved to Monday, April 28. The chairman, Congress Supervising Committee in the state, Dr. Mustapha Nua, says that the decision to shift the exercise to April 28 followed a meeting held in Kano on Friday between the committee and stakeholders of the party in the state. The exercise was also postponed in Plateau, Ekiti, and Osun states. And in Enugu State, Dr. Ben Nwoye Emere emerged as chairman, while retired Major General Chris Eze is the secretary. Health experts have warned that the Ebola virus could spread across West Africa as the continent is faced with the most challenging outbreak the international community has ever seen. Scores of deaths in Guinea and Liberia have been linked to the current outbreak of Ebola, which, according to a spokesman for the World Health Organization, began in January. In Nigeria, health officials say 7 reference disease centers have been upgraded nationwide to check a possible outbreak of the disease. More than 100 people are said to have died from Ebola virus in the West African countries of Guinea and Liberia, according to the World Health Organization. The organization describes the West Africa Ebola outbreak as one of the most challenging incidents the world has ever seen. So far, Guinea has counted close to 160 suspected cases of Ebola, with more than 100 deaths from the disease. In neighboring Liberia, there have been 10 fatalities so far, with 21 other infections linked to the disease. But what is the situation in Nigeria? The project consultant and epidemiologist at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control says even though the disease does not exist in the country at the moment, 7 reference centers are being upgraded to handle any eventuality.
We always say prevention is better than cure. For Ebola, there is no drug, there is no treatment, and there is no vaccine against Ebola. So the mainstay of keeping yourself off this virus is to prevent any practice that exposes you to Ebola. First and foremost, people should desist from eating bats.
According to the Minister of State for Health, what most Nigerians mistake for Ebola is actually dengue fever, which is transmitted by mosquitoes.
We want to state it categorically, as far as we are concerned, this is limited to Guinea Republic only, and the neighboring countries of Liberia and Sierra Leone.
Just as international aid organizations are trying to stop the disease from spreading further, the Nigeria Medical Association and the project consultant at the Nigeria Center for Disease Control speak about the symptoms and what Nigerians should do to prevent its spread.
Signs and symptoms of Ebola are like any other systemic disease. Malaria, for instance, will give us headache, fever, sore throat, body aches, abdominal aches, cough, catarrh, and so on.
You remember how we contract different illnesses. It's not just Ebola, Lassa fever, cholera, dengue, some form of hepatitis. Always keep your food clean.
Ebola disease was named after a river in the Democratic Republic of Congo, where it was discovered in 1976. But the Minister of Health reaffirms the commitment of the government to tackle the disease if it finds its way into the country.
We have people this time who will be able to ask necessary questions and be able to take steps to ensure that at least we protect ourselves. If in the event we still have people evading all our control measures at all our ports of entry and they're able to come in and begin to spread not only Lassa but even the more deadly ones like Ebola, we should have the ability to know where to take these patients.
The Ebola virus is spread through the exchange of blood or other bodily fluids, and initial symptoms are similar to those of flu and malaria. Between 2 and 21 days after becoming infected, patients experience weakness and headaches, muscle aches and chills. Infected persons die of severe internal bleeding, so prevention remains the best cure for the disease at the moment.
Over to energy matters now, and the federal government says it has set aside $300 million as partial risk guarantee to protect investors in the power sector. Well, the partial risk guarantee is a risk-sharing mechanism that provides banks with a partial coverage of risk exposure against loans made for energy efficiency projects. A statement from the Minister of State for Power, Alhaji Mohammed Wakil, says the fund is domiciled with the Central Bank of Nigeria and the World Bank. The federal government says it has lined up a series of incentives to strengthen investors' confidence and guarantee return on investment in the sector, while waivers and tax holidays have been put in place for importation of generation, transmission and distribution equipment. In a bid to address the issue of youth joblessness in the state, youths across the 27 local government area of Imo State have come together to proffer solutions to this nagging problem. At the inaugural session of the program in Owerri, the state's capital, the youth said the recent and ill-fated experience of youths during the Nigeria Immigration Service recruitment exercise triggered the coming together of the youths. They maintain that it is imperative that youths are carried along in the business of governance and creating a good platform for youths to be gainfully employed.
The educational system.
Youth across the state, under various youth bodies, councils and student unions, converged on Owerri, the Imo State capital, for the first ever Imo Youth Delegate Conference tagged Reclaiming Our Destiny. Organizers say that the recent Nigeria Immigration Service recruitment debacle triggered their curiosity that something needs to be done urgently to liberate youth from the shackles of joblessness and economic slavery. They maintain that it is quite unfortunate that during electioneering campaigns, elective office seekers depend majorly on the youth to win elections, since they have the largest voting bloc, but fail to create job opportunities for them when elected.
Youths that constitute a major bloc in voting are only used during the election time and jettisoned right after election.
The youth here explain that the aim of the conference is to come up with a communique that will contain a contractual agreement between the youth of Imo State and elective office seekers in the state, requesting them to part with some percentage of their remuneration when elected into office.
And the youths who constitute 65% or more of the voting bloc that vote these people in after election have no say in their government. Consequently, we have spiraling youth unemployment.
Politicians present at the program say that they agree that the youth should be given more room and opportunity in governance.
There are so many unemployed and disgruntled youths. They are now available for all manner of nefarious activities that are antisocial and unproductive. And we believe that if the youths are meaningfully engaged and are having better quality life, they will be in a better position to resist the temptation of being part of this insecurity issue.
With this well thought out idea by youth in Imo State to tackle the unemployment problem, it is hoped that political office seekers will take advantage of the communique reached at the end of the conference to contribute their own meaningful quota in tackling the problem of unemployment in the state and by extension in the country.
Now, young professionals are asking that their voices be heard in the quest for purposeful leadership and national integration. At a summit in Lagos, participants say for Nigeria to attain national unity, the youth must be adequately represented in governance and in the decision-making process of the country.
Considering the challenges currently plaguing the nation, youths from the 36 states of the Federation under the Nigerian Young Professionals Forum have met in Lagos to brainstorm and develop a strategic plan to foster national unity in building a prosperous and stronger Nigeria.
That would make you.
Speakers shared their thoughts on various perspectives such as education and integrity. They maintained that sectionalism and sentiment remain barriers to national integration and that the younger generation should be given a vital role in the country.
The resources will come, but they are the least thing we should strive for. When you give me a vision and you structure my pathway towards realizing that vision in a simple way, I will move the resources to come. I will attract the resources. Education for us is vital for leadership and national integration. An educated mind is an enlightened mind. An educated mind is an illuminated mind. If you have the light, you show the way. If you have the light, you unveil potentials.
If we do not come to a point in our making of our nation where the walls of sectionalism and parochialism doesn't fall, our country cannot go anywhere. If the youth do not, I will not say, if the youth do not stand up and push in people that are credible to a platform, we can never effect changes in this country. The opposition in this country can never be legitimate.
The Nigerian Young Professional Forum focuses on promoting national integration, the inclusion of young professionals in governance, and the empowerment of the poor for economic development.
Whether you find yourself in politics or in the professions, in any sphere of development, that's the integrity is the watchword.
The future and destiny of this country lies in our hands. We are seen as trustees of prosperity, so we must take up the challenge and work constructively to ensure that we eliminate all this ethnic sentiment, religious sentiment. What brings us together is greater than what tears us apart as a people.
A lot have been instilled in the minds of this young generation, and from here we'll be looking to see that concrete actions and appropriate steps are taken forthwith to ensure that that quest is maintained and pursued at all fronts. The result will be coming up as expected. Kelvin Obetin, Channels Television News.
Business news, and Adeshawa Josh is standing by in our business stories.
Well, thanks for Harriet. Nigeria's bond yields are likely to rise slightly next week because of a usual month-end profit taken by some investors. Nigeria sold 50 billion naira in 3-year and 10-year bonds this week, with yields falling due to strong demand from local pension funds. Yields on the secondary market also dipped in tandem, but demand has since eased off. Meanwhile, traders say on the Treasury bill market, yields are likely to fall on increased liquidity next week. The interbank lending rates held steady for the 5th week in a row this week at an average of 10.5%, reflecting increased liquidity in the banking system. Dealers say payment to government agencies and cash from maturing Treasury bills had boosted market liquidity. The cash balance that lenders hold at the central bank opened at a surplus of 767 billion naira on Friday, up from 278 billion naira last week. The secured open buyback was unchanged for the 5th consecutive week, as at 10.25%. That's 1.75 percentage points below the central bank's benchmark rate of 12%. Overnight placement and call money were also unchanged at 10.5% and 10.75% each. Dealers say the cost of funds in the interbank market should remain stable around the same level next week. President Goodluck Jonathan has performed the groundbreaking of the 100 billion naira expansion project for Ashaka Cement. The new 2.5 million metric ton capacity cement production line in Gombe, northeast Nigeria, is set to be completed within 3 years and is also expected to increase the company's current production capacity of over 1 million metric tons to about 4 million metric tons, while creating a lot of jobs. President Jonathan, who was represented by the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment, Olusegun Aganga, said the new investment was a testimony of global investors' growing confidence in the Nigerian economy, as well as the federal government's commitment to transforming the Nigerian economy, leaving out no region. Argentina's state-run oil company, YPF, has been awarded a tender to buy a 1 million barrel cargo of Nigerian Bonny-Light crude from trading firm Vitol. This marks the first time the South American country, which produces 700,000 barrels per day of oil, has agreed to buy Nigerian crude since it lifted restrictions on crude imports in January. The measure was taken to buy cheaper crudes instead of importing more expensive finished fuels. And that's business news this hour. The News at 10 continues in a moment.
Next on the news at 10, Afghanistan's presidential election is set for a second-round runoff after no candidate won the 50% needed to be elected outright. That's on the foreign scene. Please join us again.